Hi, welcome back to the farm. My name's Roz, also known as Passion Flower, and you'll find me here each week talking about my farming and creative life. Well, it's currently school holidays, so I am only working in the office a couple of days a week. Being a school, it's much quieter than during school term. So that has given me a bit more time around here. Um, Mostly I've been spending it on craft, which I will get to later. The rest of the family has gone away for a few days, so I have been here in charge of the feeding and watering of all of the pets, as well as making sure that the chooks are taken care of and doing the collection and organising of the egg orders. So that has been what my sort of afternoon job has been. I'll pop out and say hello to them all and check on their water and their food, collect the eggs, and then carefully clean each one and then pop it into the cartons. We're getting more and more green out here. Still not a lot of rain though, so the dams are still really empty, but the grass is starting to get proper growth. And I think that I will hold off maybe another week and then I'll put the sheep out into this little area out here just for a day or so to give a little bit of rest from their main paddock, although I'll keep that open so they can still go into their shelter. But they'll eat the grass out here and then they'll go back into there in the evenings. But I won't keep them in there for too long or they'll eat it all the way down and I'll be back to square one. And the gardens are showing signs of that sort of autumn, almost winter feel. The bulbs are starting to sprout just a little bit, so daffodils are on their way. My roses are showing a little bit of new growth, and there are lots of things flowering. It's an interesting combination, I think, of still quite warm and sunny, but then much cooler evenings, and those dews that we're getting. So everything is starting to feel quite lush in the garden. Had a lovely weekend last weekend at the first All About Fibre and Yarn Market in Vera. Had a lot of people come and say hi. Thank you for stopping by, and thank you for watching the podcast. Quite a few of you came up and said hello, so hello. It was really nice to speak to you, see you in person, and chat about yarn and what you're making and what you're planning to make, and also just being around all of the other vendors as well. It's always a lovely environment to be in. A huge thank you to Tess from Fluff and Nonsense. I was able to stay at her house the night before, so I didn't have quite the drive down to Birregurra as if I had driven from home. It's about just around over 3 hours from here. So to not have to do that first thing in the morning in preparation just before a market was wonderful. So I stayed over and she cooked me a really nice dinner. We spent the evening watching footy and knitting, and then we got up and at a not too bad hour and then made our way to Birregurra. I did then drive all the way home on the Sunday, and as soon as I got home, I literally just fell into bed. And that had been my plan. So then the following day, I unpacked the car, did a stock take, and updated the website. And I'm pretty sure that took me most of the day. I was on a bit of a go slow. I did a few other little, bits and pieces, but mostly that's what I got done. And that was enough. The next day I then sat and crafted for most of the day, and then I have been at work the rest of this week. I need to do a little bit more tidying here in the shed. There are a few things that I kind of dumped and left, and even some of the stuff that I'd done in the pre-market lead up that still needs to sort of be tidied up. I kind of start really tidy, build up, get messy, and then tidy up again. So I'm into a tidy up phase. I now also need to start dyeing some more sock yarn, especially sock yarn. I am very much down on my stocks, and with markets coming up in May and June, I have to get those colorways back. I did put out a call on Instagram asking what colors you might like to see, and I have some responses from those, and I also have my list of my stock take. So I'm going to work through the ones that I definitely need to do, try some new colorways perhaps, and work on getting all of those ready. So this afternoon I'm going to soak some more yarn to get that ready to dye up. And we have had enough rain that the tanks are now much better. I don't feel guilty or bad for using yarn for dyeing yarn now, because there's plenty for the animals and we haven't had to pump back to the house from the tanks here at the shed. So dyeing can restart. I was really happy with how the 3D printed stuff went over the past 2 weeks. So I will be getting some more of that ready for the markets coming up later in the year. I don't think I'm going to expand into anything else. I think at this stage I will continue with just the yarn spindles and yarn bowls, the containers with for notions, and the row counters. I think that's a nice little selection, something that's a little bit different and not over the top, and a lot of other things to take up space away from yarn. I'm also thinking about some different ideas about how to present some different yarn sets or kits or options. It's interesting how your brain starts to sort of think about this stuff and it all kind of clicks together. So I've got a few things in the works at the moment, and I should have those at my next market, which will be Kyneton in May. First to non-knitting kind of crafty things. So I have this skirt for work, and listen to this noise. It I wore this, it's a brand new skirt, it's a uniform, and I wore it once and it sounded like I was wearing a plastic bag underneath my skirt. So I am going to attempt to cut out this lining at least up to near the top here, so near the band, so that I can wear it. The skirt was very, very comfortable, but was just so horribly noisy. So that is on my list of things to do today, so that I can get back to wearing this nice skirt. The other thing is I am currently soaking a jumper that Deb just crocheted for herself. So she just finished it, tried it on, and now she's asked me to block it for her. So it's soaking, and I just need to give it a little bit more length when I stretch it out. So that will be, I'll put a photo in here of it blocking once I've got it done, because it's literally just in the pot soaking right now. Okay, and now on to the knitting. First to my Bendigo socks that are part of the Bendigo project. Here is the first one done. I've got it on a blocker that I made out of a metal coat hanger. I think it works quite well, and you can just hang it to dry. So I used the Socks Yeah DK, was a big cat hair on there, in the Dionysus colorway, and I used my hand dyed yarn in sock weight held double for the heel and for the toe. And you can see the cables there, so they're the stripes, and then I did stockinette heel and stockinette toe. And I have made a ton of progress on the second one already. In fact, I am halfway through the foot already. And as you can see, I have switched out the colors. So I'm going to do a yellow heel and then a green toe on this one to make it opposite to that one. So I will definitely have this finished to show you next week, and probably blocked, because I don't normally block my socks. I will just like wash them and throw them on my feet and not really care. But because this has this beautiful cable, I really want to make sure that it shows it off properly. And as you can see, as I've been knitting, it's like a very tight, small sausage. And when you block it out, you're going to be able to really see that. So I need to make sure that these are blocked properly. I did not knit on my Pescadero again this week, and I think I figured out why, and I have remedied that problem. So let me talk you through it. I was worried that I had knit a size too small, that it was going to be too tight and not fit me. So I kind of paused on the front, because that's where all the lace and the detail is, and I didn't want to put in all that effort if it wasn't going to fit. So to fix that problem, to know if it was going to fit, I needed to block the back because it was all curled up because it's all stuck in it. So I blocked the back and it blocked out to the measurements of the pattern according to the size that I was knitting. So perfect. And it looks really nice. The fabric's lovely. The yarn is beautiful. And it's as wide as the previous Tolster tee that I made. So it's not like it's fitting, like really hugging my skin. It's not like oversized, but I didn't want it to be oversized. I want it to be like a fairly tailored, fitted, nice jumper. And so I'm much more confident now that I've done that and blocked that to size, that the front is going to be just fine. So I may not get back to it straight away, but I do know now that I'm not going to be doing all that work for nothing, that it will actually fit me. So that's really good. Next to my happy street, which I am very pleased to tell you is in a much nicer bag than it was last week. So let me tell you about the bag first. Last week I had it in a Kmart bag, and at the All About Fibre and Yarn market on the weekend, I may have picked up this beautiful bag from Crystal Cat Stitchery. I think there's a tag in here somewhere as well, which I'll show you. So gorgeous Liberty fabric. So thank you, Liz from Crystal Cat Stitchery. I love to see her. She's a lovely person and a very talented bag maker. So it is a canvas, and it's got leather handles. There is it's a two-way zip on the front with a really lovely pocket with a zipper. And then it's also got like a slide pocket at the front too. So I've been putting my pattern into that slide pocket there. Here is her card. And then on the inside, it's got the little covering at the top. So perfect for the cats because they both love to get inside my bags while I'm working on them. Like they'll sit on the couch next to me and like stick their heads in. And I'm really worried about them getting into my knitting when I'm not around as well. So having the cover and the drawstring, I can literally just have the one piece of yarn that I'm working on coming out, and it keeps everything else nice and secure inside the bag. And I have my 4 balls of yarn in here and the shawl, and it all fits in beautifully. So a brand new project bag, which to be honest, I didn't need, but I absolutely wanted, and it's a much nicer vessel for a project that's making me really happy as well. I do need to go through all of my projects to look at what I've got inside project bags because I do have quite a lot of them. So the fact that I had run out is a concern. I think some of those projects I should be picking back up rather than starting a new one once I get a few of these things off the needles. So that will be in my mind moving forward, to not be distracted by the new next shiny thing, but perhaps going back to one of those ones that I did love at some point and it's just been sitting there. So that might be something that I can look at next week once I get those socks off the needles, or maybe once I get a bit further through this happy streak. So I am using 4 different colors for my happy streak. I have worked on the second light pink stripe this past week, and the rows are now getting super long. I don't even know how many stitches are on the needles, but as you can see, it's quite bunched up. But the garter stitch is making me really happy, and it's a nice thing to do a few rows at the end of the day because I don't have to think about it at all. I know the pattern, I can just go, and it's just creating this beautiful shawl that I cannot wait to wear. The dark pink with that little texture is Dream in Colour from their 2014 Dream Club, and then I've got 3 different colours of Madeline Tosh that I used in my first Happy Street that I showed you last week. And I think it's just absolutely stunning. So project that's making me really happy in a bag that's now making me really happy. So overall, Happy Street is a good project. And the other thing that I worked on this week was the jumper for my sister that I'm making based on the numbers of the True Stripes pattern from the 52 Weeks of Easy Knits book. And then I used the stitch numbers for pickup for the shoulders from the Libido sweater. The details will be below. So that I can knit them connected in the round from the top down rather than knitting them flat in pieces. But I knit the body in pieces. So what I did this past week was I had blocked it the week before, and I have seamed the shoulders. I did experiment with doing a pink across the shoulder, and I'd talked about perhaps doing like an I-cord kind of attached seam. And I played around with that, and it just didn't look quite right across the seam. And because you can see here, the tops match up reasonably well. So what I decided to do was to just do mattress stitch across the shoulders. And I think that will provide a much sturdier shoulder than doing some kind of 3-needle, whatever I was doing, I-cord, which was actually reasonably loose and didn't look that nice. I have looked into some other options for seaming up the sides, and there is it looks like a crochet chain, just a single chain, which looks much more secure, and I think will be a nice, more subtle detail. So I think that's what I will do up the sides once I've done the sleeves. So I picked up from the center top so that I could get the right number of stitches down on either side to match them up properly. And I am now knitting the sleeves in the round. So here's the start of the first sleeve there. And I like how the stripes are now forming the other way. I think that looks really cool. And they're not coming out too badly in terms of their width. I think that it's going to be fine. I'm not going to have to play around with yarn too much. I think that's just going to be a bit over the top if I try and yarn manage to get stripes. But what I am going to do is add in, I bought some white faux fur. They're going to be reasonably open sleeves, not too much of a decrease, probably no decrease, maybe even a little bit of an increase down near the wrist so that it flares out a little bit. And bands of white fluff down the sleeve. I kind of have to figure out where that's going to go. I had started this while Deb was away this past week, and I just had put it on hold until just now. So she's just tried this on. I was a little worried. I didn't want the armhole to be too small or too big. So I just got her to try this on, and she's happy with the fit. So I am ready to now progress on sleeve number 1 and see how far I get. I didn't want to continue on too far before she tried it on in case I had to make any adjustments, like rip it out and either do more or less pick up for the sleeves. But I also wanted to make sure that there was some there before she tried it on, because otherwise it's too hard when it's just picked up sleeves back here to tell how it's going to fit and sit. But being a drop shoulder, there was plenty of sleeve with this little bit done to be able to try it on. So she was happy. So now I'm happy. I'm more happy today. And I can now continue to work on this. And with there still being some holiday days here in the next week around Easter and everything, I'm hoping to get quite a bit of this done. Well, that's it for another week. Thanks for spending some time with me. If you're enjoying these videos, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I look forward to seeing you next week on the farm. Bye.